esports has gotten to button down. With the advent of esports becoming more mainstream and more popular across the board, has become this common criticism that it lost its roots of being this niche of a niche hobby, and now we're worse off in many aspects for that, mainstream notice. And I saw a FGC thread a few weeks back talking about how esports is just too lame and too mainstream, bro, because we didn't have Mike Oxlong versus Jack Ingoff in bracket, so I guess we're too professional out here to be hip with the kids anymore. Your mileage may vary on that take, but I think that's a little presumptuous. And to prove my point, I looked through the entirety of Liquipedia's list of players in Rainbow Six, and I found some pretty silly professional names, some of which with some actually important historical context. I'm not just talking like a Challenger League player, played one season and then has nothing else to their name. I'm talking about players with some pretty legacy careers here. To get into this is going to be broken down into 3 parts. I'm going to have just silly names that are silly and are funny, and I want to shout them out. I'm going to have some names that are funny with a little bit of context, and then lastly, I'm going to have 5 names that I think are just worth talking about in a little bit more depth. So let's get into it. So the first things first, I want to go over just the silly names, but there's nothing much to them. Alright, you've got Baka Brian, you've got Kush, you've got Never Swim Alone, BKN, Goku, Bouncing Balls. I'm not making that one up. That is real, that is legitimate. You've also got a guy called Frenchie. He is in fact a French player. I know this may shock you, please do not be alarmed. Alternatively, you've got some names that are funny with a little bit more context. So you've got players like Slebin, who on his own, he does not have that funny of a name. But then you add in Panari's theme song that he made about Slebin and how he's superpowered Slebin.
Slebin is the superpower player. Slebin is the Clones master player. Slebin.
You've also got somebody like Benji Mula, and it's a silly name. Most of these are silly, but he played his entire pro career on Mirage. Finally, for this section, we've got Sloppy, the Italian import. The Italian entry brought to Tempo Storm back in the day. For a lot of people, the joke here would be more about his career than his name and how the level of his play was rather sloppy.
But, those would be unkind people. I did my best.
To move on to the final section here, I've got a handful of names here. But first on the list is one near and dear to my heart, and this is, of course, the Revolver God himself, Easy Peasy Lemon Squeezy. Easy Peasy Lemon Squeezy is a early North American Rainbow Six pro. He played on teams like Flipside and Gotham Gaming with the likes of Mint, Pojo Man, King George, the works. Easy Peasy had a relatively short career. He only played until 2018, if memory serves, and he only had one international event. We don't talk about it.
He's regarding the diffuser.
Oh no, they left the diffuser up there.
They forgot the diffuser.
Some bullshit.
But he's most well known for being a Revolver God. He used the revolver on the French operators back in a time when pistols had terrible recoil, like kick in your teeth levels of recoil, and that was for low recoil guns like the P9 or the P250. Easy Peasy was using the revolver, and Easy Peasy got a bunch of notable plays with the revolver in the earliest stages of Pro League that got immortalized by Pojo Man's Pro Digest, and he is the Revolver God. Next up, we've got more North American players, these two being My Man and Gurmy Wormy. These guys are pretty fun because not only are their names really fun to say, like, I feel like Aquaman every time I say My Man. And Gurmy Wormy is just, I don't know what to tell you, man, it's pretty silly. What's notable about these guys is that as far as their career goes within North America, I feel like they're a big what if as far as like what they could have accomplished. I think there were moments on some of their teams, like Obey Alliance, where had a matter of inches gone their way instead of the opponents, we could have been talking about some very storied and very legacied careers with trophies and chips on the table. But we didn't. For instance, their entry into Pro League was with Fox and Geo on a little team called Excellence Gaming back in Year 2, Season 2. They were playing with some console crossovers, and what's notable here is that in their first ever foray into Pro League, they went to the Pro League Finals, which in itself is very impressive for the time. There, they faced off against one Penta Gaming, including a Penta Pengu, a Penta Fabian, and a Penta Eunice. You might have heard of those guys. I know they're a little bit on the fringe, but you might have heard of them. Where they lost. Obviously, like, what did you expect? But there's more to their story. My man and Gurmy went on to other teams such as Obey Alliance with Skies and Benji and Bosco and Adam, and these guys on Obey were not an online team, which really sucked for them because Pro League at the time was all online, but we saw with those minor and major events that they did manage to qualify to, that the team was legitimately threatening. Like, they had serious firepower when things were clicking, and they always seemed to click more on LAN than online. When I mentioned that it was a game of inches as to why we don't know about these guys more, it really was a matter of inches. I can think back to that Eclipse 1v3 on LAN.
You've got his teammate Eclipse watching if there's a push through security. Skies will take out Slash though, and look at this, Eclipse with 1-2 for Eclipse. Oh, this is winnable. They will need to defuse, and the time running out, but Eclipse, he'll trade, but Rogue will take it. A trade to finish things off. That's
the margin of error we're talking about for Obey Alliance getting eliminated from some of these tournaments and not establishing themselves a little bit more. I believe it was my man retired first, and then Gurmy played a little bit longer in some like T2 tournaments, played on a Challenger League team called Organized Chaos, had some players you might recognize like Merc, Fultz, and Prod. Second to last name on this list, it's going to be Schlongy. I don't have to explain this one. Schlongy is a North American player, of course, and his most notable accomplishment is being on a team with Foxe, Laxing, and Goddess. He didn't have a long career, like most of these players on this list, but what is notable about Schlongy is that he was one of the first pickups for Cloud9's entry into Rainbow Six. But the point is that imagine you're looking at Cloud9, one of the biggest North American esports organizations in the world for 2018. Even to this day, they're still one of the biggest, right? And, you know, they're infamous for a League of Legends team, for a Counter-Strike team. They've won a major. They're great at Dota. They're great at this. They're great at that. And they're picking up a Rainbow Six roster. Let's go! Let's look at the team. Who's on this team? We got Foxe. We got Goddess. We got Laxing. We got Schlongy. Like, alright, look. Bro does not have results, but you cannot make a list of silly names without him being here. Final person to talk about here is Sexy Cake. This is, of course, the infamous Brazilian support player with loads of clutches and iconic moments.
Tá na frente dele, ele vai tentando rushar agora pelo banheiro, na frente.
And I have a shotgun. Let me prove it.
Não, shotgun para finalizar. O outro agora. E a Sexy Cake vai vencendo a partida.
Most notably played for Team Liquid for almost 3 years, and while I feel like his name has kind of lost its effect because everyone knows about this guy at this point, just the fact that we had a professional player, but not only a professional player, but a high-profile professional player called Sexy Cake is kind of absurd. You tag in that he was really fucking good and has a legitimate, like, set of results. Like, a second place in the 2021 Six Invitational is no light work. He's got third to fourths in other majors. Like, this guy has legitimate results and has a true career, unlike most of the other names on this list. So that's kind of why he's here. Also because his name's really funny.